I'm going to tell you something that sounds insane. You are currently living in every moment of your life simultaneously. Your brain just tricks you into experiencing them one at a time, like a movie projector. But the film? The whole film already exists. I spent 40 years studying quantum mechanics. And here's the joke. The math doesn't care about your feelings. It doesn't know about regret or nostalgia. A photon that left your childhood bedroom is still traveling through space right now, carrying the exact image of 7-year-old you. The past isn't behind you. It's everywhere. And that's either the most terrifying thing you've heard today, or the most liberating. Look, I know how strange that sounds. You're probably thinking, what is this guy talking about? The past is gone. I was there. It happened. It's over. And I get it. That's how we experience time. We wake up, we move through our day, we go to sleep. Yesterday feels behind us. Last year feels even further. That thing you're ashamed of from a decade ago? You want to believe it's buried somewhere in the distant past where it can't touch you anymore. But I'm here to tell you something that'll change everything. You've been lied to about how time works. Not by anyone malicious, just by the limitations of human perception. We experience time sequentially because that's how consciousness works. But time itself? Time doesn't work that way at all. And here's why this matters to you. Right now. Today. You've been exhausting yourself trying to let go of your past, trying to move on, trying to forget. And it never quite works, does it? There's always something that lingers, some memory that shows up uninvited, some regret that won't release its grip, some version of yourself you're ashamed of that keeps haunting you. And you think there's something wrong with you. Why can't I just let this go? Why am I still carrying this? You've tried therapy, meditation, positive thinking, keeping busy, anything to escape what happened back then. And the weight is still there. What I'm going to show you today is that you're not broken. You're not failing at healing. You're just trying to do something that's physically impossible. You're trying to delete something from a universe that doesn't have a delete button. See, most self-help approaches treat the past like it's a filing cabinet you need to clean out. Just throw away the painful stuff, keep the good memories, organize everything neatly, and move forward. But that's not how reality works. That's not how physics works. That's not how memory works. And that's definitely not how healing works. I'm going to show you why the past never disappears. Not metaphorically, but actually, physically, in the structure of reality itself. And more importantly, I'm going to show you why that's the best news you could possibly hear. Because once you stop fighting the permanence of the past, once you understand what it actually is and how it actually functions, you can finally stop running from it. You can integrate it. You can carry it differently. You can make peace with the fact that you're not leaving anything behind. You're bringing everything forward. And that changes everything. So let me start by explaining what's really happening when you remember something. What memory actually is. Because it's not what you think. When you remember your 10th birthday party, you think you're accessing some kind of recording in your brain, right? Like pressing play on a video file. The event happened back then, got stored somehow, and now you're retrieving it. But here's what's actually happening. You're reconstructing that event from fragments. Every single time you remember something, your brain is building it from scratch, pulling pieces from different neural networks, assembling them into a coherent narrative, and filling in the gaps with assumptions, emotions, and current context. And here's the wild part. Every time you do this, you change the memory slightly. Not intentionally, just by the act of remembering. Your current mood affects how you reconstruct it. Your current beliefs filter which details you notice. Your current needs shape which meaning you extract from it. You're not watching a recording. You're painting a new version of an old scene every single time you remember it. And each version becomes part of the memory network. So the next time you remember, you're actually remembering your last memory of it, not the original event. This is why siblings can have completely different memories of the same childhood. It's not that one is lying. They've been unconsciously rewriting those events every time they remember them, filtered through their own perspective, their own pain, their own understanding. Same objective events, completely different reconstructed meanings. Now, you might be thinking, okay, but that's just about memory. The actual event is still in the past, right? It happened then, not now. And this is where physics gets beautiful and weird and totally mind-bending. Albert Einstein proved something that most people know about but don't really understand. Time is relative. It's not absolute. There's no universal now that everyone agrees on. Depending on how fast you're moving, events that appear simultaneous to you might appear sequential to someone else. Time isn't a river we're all floating down together. It's more like a landscape, and we're each hiking through it at our own pace, seeing it from our own angle. What this means, and this is crucial, is that past, present, and future don't exist the way you think they do. They're not separate regions of reality where one is dead and gone and another hasn't happened yet. They're all equally real, all equally present in what we call space-time. The universe doesn't differentiate between yesterday and today and tomorrow. Those are human constructs to help us navigate experience. From the universe's perspective, every moment that has ever happened is still happening. It's still real. It's still there. That conversation you had with your mother before she died, it's still occurring in that point in space-time. The moment you fell in love for the first time, still happening. That terrible mistake you made that you wish you could erase, still unfolding in its own eternal present. Now I can see some of you tensing up. Wait, you're telling me all my worst moments are still happening forever? That's not liberating. That's horrifying. Stay with me, because here's where it gets interesting. If all moments exist simultaneously, if your younger self is still living their life in their reference frame of space-time, then what does that change about your relationship to them? Most people treat their past selves with contempt. God, I was so stupid then. What was I thinking? I can't believe I did that. There's this weird self-punishment we engage in, as if being cruel to our younger self will somehow absolve us or prove we've grown. But if that version of you is still real, still experiencing their moment, still doing their best with what they knew, don't they deserve your compassion? I started doing something that changed my entire relationship with my own history. When a painful memory would surface, and I've got plenty, believe me, everyone does, instead of pushing it away or analyzing it or trying to learn some lesson from it, I would imagine my current self stepping into that scene. Not to change anything, not to give my younger self advice, just to be present with them. I'd picture myself sitting down next to 23-year-old Richard, frustrated and lost and making mistakes. And I'd just say, "Hey, I see you. I know this is hard. You're doing your best. And I want you to know, you make it through this. I'm here, 70 years later, and you made it." Now, most people would say that's just a visualization exercise, some psychological trick to reframe memories. But I don't think it's just that. See, in the four-dimensional structure of space-time, every moment exists simultaneously. That means, in a very real sense, I am there. My consciousness exists across all the moments I've ever experienced. So when I choose to bring compassion into that moment through memory, through intention, through presence, I'm not pretending. I'm actually offering something real to a version of myself who is still experiencing that difficulty in their eternal now. And that changes the entire emotional texture of the memory. Not by erasing what happened, not by rewriting the facts, but by adding presence where there was absence, by adding love where there was isolation, by adding witness where there was shame. Let me give you an example from my own life. When I was working on the Manhattan Project during World War II, my wife Arlene was dying of tuberculosis. She was in a hospital in Albuquerque, and I was in Los Alamos, and I'd drive down to see her whenever I could. We were young. We'd just gotten married. And she was dying. and there was nothing I could do about it. She died in 1945. I was 27 years old. For years, I couldn't think about that time without this crushing weight, the helplessness, the loss, the feeling that I should have done more, been there more, somehow prevented it. Classic survivor's guilt mixed with grief, mixed with the specific pain of losing someone when you're too young to have any framework for it. And I tried everything. I tried not thinking about it. I tried thinking about it constantly. I tried analyzing my feelings. I tried staying busy. I tried dating other people. Nothing touched it. The weight was always there. Until one day, decades later, I tried something different. I stopped trying to escape that 27-year-old version of myself. I stopped being angry at him for not being stronger, for not handling it better. Instead, I just acknowledged, that guy is still there, in his moment, experiencing the worst grief of his life. He's still sitting in that hospital room. He's still driving back to Los Alamos with tears in his eyes. He's still there. And instead of abandoning him to that pain alone, I started talking to him. Hey, kid, I know how much this hurts. I know you feel like you're drowning. I know you think you'll never be okay again. But you will. Not today. Not for a long time. But you will find your way through this. And Arlene, she knows you loved her. She knows. Something shifted. Not immediately, not dramatically, but over time, that crushing weight started to transform. It didn't disappear. I don't think grief ever disappears. But it became something I could carry differently, because I wasn't trying to erase it anymore. I wasn't trying to escape it. I was integrating it, bringing that version of myself along with compassion instead of shame. That's what I mean when I say the past never disappears. It's not a curse, it's an opportunity. Because if those versions of yourself still exist, you can finally give them what they needed. Now let's talk about what this means for the stuff you're carrying, the mistakes you made, the trauma you experienced, the shame you can't seem to shake. In quantum mechanics, we have this principle called the conservation of information. It's fundamental to how the universe works. Information cannot be created or destroyed, only transformed. You can scramble it, you can change its form, you can move it around, but you cannot delete it. This is a hard physical limit built into the structure of reality. Your memories work the same way. You cannot delete what happened to you. You cannot unknow what you know. Every experience you've ever had is written into your neural pathways, your body, your unconscious patterns, the very cells that make up who you are. It's information that's been integrated into your system. And people hate this. They come to therapy, to meditation, to self-help books, desperately wanting to erase their trauma. I just want to forget it ever happened. I want to go back to who I was before. But there is no before. That version of you doesn't exist anymore. You've been transformed by what happened. The information has been integrated. You can't unlearn it. And this is where people get stuck. They keep trying to delete what cannot be deleted, and the effort of trying to delete it keeps it active. It's like trying not to think about a pink elephant. The effort of avoidance is what reinforces it. I see this all the time with people carrying guilt. They did something years ago they're ashamed of, and they keep trying to push it away, deny it, pretend it didn't happen. But it did happen. It's part of the permanent record. And the energy they spend trying to erase it just keeps it in the forefront of their consciousness. Here's the paradox. The moment you stop trying to delete it, it loses its power over you. Because what gives painful memories their grip isn't the memory itself. It's your relationship to it. It's the resistance, the shame, the belief that it defines you, the fear that if you acknowledge it fully, it'll swallow you whole. But information that's acknowledged, witnessed, integrated, that's just information. It doesn't control you. It's just part of the data set of your life. You can't change the equation, but you can change how you integrate it. The trauma happened. That's a fixed variable. But what you do with it, how you carry it, what meaning you make from it. That's the calculation that's still running. Let me give you another way to think about this. In quantum mechanics, before you observe a particle, it exists in what we call a superposition, all possible states at once. The moment you measure it, the wave function collapses into one specific state. Your memories work similarly. Every moment of your past exists in a superposition of possible meanings. That time you got fired from a job, does it mean you're a failure? Or does it mean you were in the wrong place and needed to move on? Does it mean you're incompetent? Or does it mean you learned what kind of environment you need to thrive? Both are true. Neither is complete. The meaning isn't fixed. It collapses differently depending on who you are when you remember it. Most people don't realize they're the observer. They think the past has one objective meaning, one fixed interpretation, and they're stuck with it forever. But you're not accessing an objective recording. You're collapsing the wave function every time you remember. You're choosing which meaning to crystallize, even if you're doing it unconsciously. And if you're already doing it unconsciously, doesn't it make sense to start doing it consciously? I'm not talking about gaslighting yourself. I'm not talking about denying what happened or pretending it didn't hurt or forcing yourself to slap a positive interpretation on something genuinely painful. I'm talking about recognizing that you have agency in how you carry your history forward, that you're already interpreting it, already collapsing it into meaning, and you might as well be intentional about which meanings serve your growth and which ones just keep you stuck. Two people can go through the exact same childhood, the exact same difficult experience, and one becomes bitter and one becomes compassionate. Same objective events, completely different collapsed meanings. That's not because one is lying or in denial, it's because they're collapsing the wave function differently. They're asking different questions of their past. They're choosing to illuminate different aspects of the same complex reality. Let me be clear. I'm not saying you should just think positive thoughts about your trauma and pretend everything's fine. That's bypassing, and it doesn't work. What I'm saying is this. Your past is a complex, multifaceted information system, and you get to choose which facets you focus on, which patterns you amplify, which lessons you extract. Here's a practice I want you to try. Think of something difficult from your past. Don't pick the most traumatic thing. Start with something moderately painful. Got it? Now write down 5 different meanings that event could have. 5 different interpretations, 5 different lessons. Let's say your father left when you were young. That event could mean 1. I learned early that I couldn't rely on people. 2. I developed independence and self-sufficiency. 3. I carry abandonment wounds that affect my relationships. 4. I became fiercely protective of people who are vulnerable. 5. I learned what kind of parent I never want to be. All 5 are true. All 5 are incomplete. None of them is the objective meaning of your father leaving. They're all possible collapses of that event's wave function. Now ask yourself, which one have I been habitually collapsing this into? Which meaning am I unconsciously reinforcing every time I remember this? And then ask, which meaning would serve my growth? Which interpretation would help me carry this differently? You're not denying the painful ones. You're not pretending the wound doesn't exist. You're just refusing to let one interpretation dominate when the reality is multifaceted. This is what I mean by conscious observation. You're taking responsibility for being the observer, for choosing how you collapse the meaning of your own history. Now let's talk about something that makes people really uncomfortable. Your body knows your past in ways your mind doesn't understand. There's this idea in physics about different forms of information storage. You can store information in books, in computer code, in DNA, in the spin of particles. Same information, different media. Your past isn't just stored in your brain as neural patterns. It's stored in your body as chronic tension, as immune responses, as gut reactions, as the way you hold your shoulders or clench your jaw or breathe shallow when you're stressed. Trauma doesn't just live in memory. It lives in your nervous system, in your muscular patterns, in the way your body learned to protect itself from threat. And this is why you can't just think your way out of the past. Because it's not just a cognitive problem, it's somatic, it's physical, it's encoded in flesh and nerve and breath. I see people trying to heal through analysis alone. They understand why they react the way they do. They've traced it back to childhood. They can articulate the pattern perfectly. And they still can't change it. That's because understanding is necessary but not sufficient. The information is stored in multiple formats, and you have to address all of them. Here's a simple practice. Next time a painful memory surfaces, instead of immediately trying to analyze it or push it away, notice where you feel it in your body. Is it tightness in your chest? Nausea in your stomach? Tension in your shoulders? A lump in your throat? Place your hand there. Just acknowledge it. This is where I'm holding this memory. This is where my body stored this information. And then, this is crucial. Remind your body that this is old information. It already happened. You survived it. You're safe right now. Your nervous system often can't tell the difference between remembering a threat and experiencing a current threat. That's why you can have a full stress response just from thinking about something that happened years ago. Your body treats memory as present danger. So you have to explicitly tell it, this is the past being present. This is information from the permanent record showing up in this moment. But I'm here now, and I'm safe. It sounds simple, maybe even silly. But it works. Because you're addressing the information where it's actually stored, in the physical, somatic level, not just the cognitive level. You're helping your body update its threat assessment. You're saying, yes, that happened. Yes, it was real. Yes, it's still encoded in us, and we survived it. We're okay now. Let me tell you about a weird experience I had that taught me about this. I was in my 60s, and I had this recurring pain in my shoulder that doctors couldn't explain. No injury, no clear cause, just this persistent ache. I was doing some stretches one day, and suddenly I had this flash of memory. I was maybe 6 years old and my father was gripping my shoulder really hard, dragging me somewhere I didn't want to go. I'd completely forgotten about it. It wasn't a major trauma, just one of those minor childhood moments that didn't seem significant. But my body hadn't forgotten. For 60 years, that shoulder had been holding the information of that moment. The tension, the helplessness, the fear of being physically controlled. And once I made that connection, once I acknowledged what my body had been carrying, the pain started to ease. Not immediately, not magically, but over time. Because I was finally addressing the information where it lived. Your body is not separate from your mind. Your past is not separate from your present. It's all one continuous information system, and healing happens when you address all levels of it. Now I want to talk about something that's going to sound paradoxical, the role of gratitude in carrying the past. You might be thinking, gratitude for my trauma, for my mistakes? Are you kidding? Stay with me. See, there's this law in thermodynamics, the second law, that says entropy always increases. Systems move toward disorder unless you actively put energy into maintaining structure. Everything falls apart unless you work to hold it together. Your emotional life follows the same pattern. Unprocessed pain doesn't just sit there quietly. It spreads. It bleeds into your relationships, your work, your health, your capacity for joy. Entropy increases. But here's what's interesting. Gratitude is a form of energy input that reorganizes entropy into structure. It takes disorder and creates meaning from it. I'm not talking about toxic positivity or pretending bad things were actually good. I'm talking about acknowledging that even your worst experiences contributed something to who you are now. Even your biggest failures taught you something your successes couldn't. This is uncomfortable because it means acknowledging that you needed those experiences. Not that they were good, not that you deserved them, but that they shaped you, and without them, you wouldn't be who you are. I learned some of my most important physics insights from my biggest failures, from experiments that didn't work, from theories that turned out to be wrong, from approaches that led nowhere. If I erase those failures, I erase the lessons they taught me. If I pretend they didn't happen, I lose access to the wisdom they forced me to develop. Same with personal stuff. The relationships that ended badly taught me what I actually need. The jobs I lost showed me what I value. The times I hurt people forced me to confront parts of myself I was avoiding. None of this means I'm glad they happened. It means I'm not pretending they didn't happen. I'm integrating them as part of the permanent record of my becoming. Here's a practice that might feel strange at first. Write a letter to a younger version of yourself, thanking them for their struggle. Dear 17-year-old Richard, thank you for being so stubborn when everyone told you physics was too hard. Thank you for failing that first exam and having to learn how to actually study. Thank you for embarrassing yourself trying to talk to girls and learning that authenticity matters more than trying to be cool. You were doing your best. You made mistakes. Some of them hurt. Some of them hurt other people. And all of them taught me something I needed to know. This isn't about absolving yourself of responsibility. It's about recognizing that your past self was a real person doing real work, and they deserve acknowledgement for that, not just judgment. When you bring gratitude to your past, something shifts. The memories don't disappear. Remember, they can't. That's the whole point. But they transform from sources of shame into sources of wisdom. The information reorganizes from chaos into structure. You stop seeing your history as a burden you're dragging behind you and start seeing it as a foundation you're building on. And that's when healing starts to feel possible. Not because you've escaped the past, but because you've changed your relationship to its permanence. Let me tell you about something Einstein taught me, indirectly. He showed that space and time are connected, inseparable, woven together into this four-dimensional fabric we call spacetime. You can't have one without the other. They're aspects of the same thing. What that means is that every point in space is also a point in time. Every location carries its history. The atoms that make up your body right now have been other things before. They were in stars, in planets, in other living beings. They carry the entire history of the universe in their structure. You are literally made of the past, not metaphorically. Literally. The carbon in your cells was forged in dying stars billions of years ago. The water in your body has been through countless other bodies, other ecosystems, other forms. You are the past made present, and you will become the past for future moments. This is why trying to separate yourself from your history is absurd. You are your history. It's not something you carry, it's something you are. But here's the beautiful part. You're also constantly creating new history. Every moment you're adding to the permanent record. Every choice, every word, every action becomes part of the eternal structure of space-time, which means you have incredible agency. Not to change what was, but to choose what will be permanently added to the record. Right now, in this moment, you're creating the past that your future self will carry. You're laying down the memories that will be part of the permanent record. Knowing that changes how you move through this moment, doesn't it? If you knew that 70 years from now, some version of you would look back at this exact moment, would you treat yourself differently? Would you speak to yourself with more kindness? Would you make different choices? Here's a practice I do every night. I speak one sentence to my future self, decades from now. Hey, future me. Today was hard, but I showed up. Future me, I hope you remember this moment of unexpected joy. Future me, I'm doing my best. I hope that's enough. It keeps me connected to the permanence of the present. It reminds me that I'm not just living this moment, I'm creating the past that some future version of me will witness. And it makes me gentler with myself, because I know that future me will look back at this moment with compassion, so why not bring that compassion into the moment itself? You become your own witness across time. You acknowledge that all yourselves, past, present, future, are equally real, equally deserving of kindness. Now, I know some of you are thinking, This all sounds nice philosophically, but what do I actually do with the pain I'm carrying? How does understanding space-time help me sleep at night when the memories won't stop? Fair question. Let me get practical. First, stop trying to let go. Seriously, just stop. That phrase, let it go, it's causing more harm than good, because it implies that you're supposed to be able to release something, and when you can't, you feel like you're failing. But you can't let go of something that's permanent. That's not weakness. That's physics. Instead, practice integration. Ask yourself, how can I acknowledge this is part of me without letting it define all of me? How can I carry this differently? It's the difference between dragging a weight behind you and incorporating it into your foundation. Same mass, completely different relationship to it. Second, practice conscious observation. Remember the wave function collapse? You're already collapsing your memories into specific meanings every time you remember them. Start doing it intentionally. When a painful memory surfaces, pause. Notice what meaning you're automatically assigning to it. Then ask, what else could this mean? What other lessons could it contain? What other truths might be here? You're not denying the painful interpretation. You're just refusing to let it be the only interpretation. Third, bring your current resources into past moments through imagination. I know it sounds like make-believe, but remember, in the structure of space-time, those moments are still happening. When you imagine bringing wisdom, compassion, presence to your younger self, you're not playing pretend. You're actually offering something real across time. Try this. Pick a difficult memory. Imagine stepping into that scene as you are now, older, wiser, more resourced. Don't change what's happening. Just be present with your younger self. What would you say to them? What would you want them to know? Do this out loud if you can. Your nervous system responds to spoken words differently than thought. Hey, I see you. I know this hurts. You're going to make it through this. I'm proof. Fourth, work with your body. The information isn't just cognitive. When memories surface, check in somatically. Where do you feel it? What sensation? Can you breathe into it? Can you remind your body that the threat is over? You survived. You're here now. Fifth, practice gratitude for your past selves without bypassing the pain. Not, it all worked out for the best. That's dismissive. But thank you for surviving that. Thank you for trying. Thank you for the lessons I didn't want but needed. And sixth, this is crucial. Find meaning without forcing meaning. Sometimes things happen that are just terrible. No silver lining, no hidden lesson, just pain. And that's okay. You don't have to find meaning in everything. But you can find meaning in how you carry it. You can find meaning in who you become in spite of it. You can find meaning in the compassion it awakens in you for others who suffer. The event doesn't have to mean something, but your relationship to it can. Let me bring this all together because I know we've covered a lot of ground, a lot of physics, a lot of philosophy, a lot of personal stuff. Here's what I want you to walk away with. The past never disappears. Not because you're broken, not because you can't heal, but because that's how reality works. Information is conserved. Moments exist eternally in the structure of space-time. Your history is woven into the fabric of who you are. And that's okay. More than okay. It's liberating. Because once you stop exhausting yourself trying to delete the undeletable, you can finally focus on what actually works. Integration. Bringing your past forward with consciousness and compassion instead of shame and avoidance. You don't need to escape your younger selves. You need to bring them along. They're still there, still real, still experiencing their moments. They deserve your witness, not your contempt. Every mistake you made, every trauma you survived, every moment of joy or pain or confusion, it's all still part of the permanent record. It's all still contributing to who you are. And here's the thing. You're creating new, permanent record right now. This moment we're sharing, this conversation, It's becoming part of the eternal structure of spacetime. It will always have happened. So what are you going to add to the permanent record? How will you treat yourself knowing that this moment will be part of your history forever? You can bring kindness into this moment. You can bring presence. You can choose to witness yourself with compassion instead of judgment. And if you do that, if you really practice seeing your whole self across time with love, something remarkable happens. The weight you've been carrying doesn't disappear, but it transforms. It becomes part of your foundation instead of your burden. You stop running from who you were and start integrating all of who you are. And that's when you finally feel whole, not because you've fixed yourself, but because you've stopped treating yourself as broken. Here's what I want you to remember. I don't need to escape my past. I need to bring it forward with love. Say it with me. I don't need to escape my past. I need to bring it forward with love. Every version of you that ever existed is still real, still worthy, still deserving of compassion. The kid who was scared, the teenager who felt lost, the young adult who made terrible choices, the person you were yesterday. They're all still there in the permanent record of space-time, and they're all part of you. Bring them forward, witness them, thank them, love them, not because it erases the pain, but because it transforms your relationship to it. You stop being at war with yourself. You stop fragmenting your identity into good parts and bad parts. You become whole, and wholeness doesn't mean perfect. It means integrated. It means acknowledging all of it, carrying all of it, making peace with the fact that you can't delete any of it. The physics says it's not going anywhere. Your past is permanent, encoded in the structure of reality itself. So maybe it's time to stop fighting that. Maybe it's time to acknowledge that the person you were 10 years ago is still experiencing that moment in their reference frame. They're still doing their best with what they knew. And maybe, just maybe, they deserve the same compassion you'd offer anyone else who was struggling, including the compassion of your present self reaching back across time to say, I see you. I've got you. We made it. That's not mystical. That's not wishful thinking. That's quantum mechanics meeting psychology, meeting the very human need to make peace with our own history. You are every age you've ever been, all at once. You contain multitudes. You carry the entire story of your becoming in the structure of your cells, your memories, your patterns, your wisdom. And that story doesn't need to be erased or escaped. It needs to be witnessed, acknowledged, integrated, loved, because you're not broken. You never were. You were just taught to see permanence as a problem instead of recognizing it as the foundation of healing. Your past self is still there, and they're proud of you for making it this far. I promise. They're watching you from their moment in space-time, hoping you'll finally stop abandoning them and bring them home. So if this landed for you, if something shifted even slightly in how you see your own history, I'd love to hear about it. Drop a comment and tell me which idea hit hardest. Was it the wave function collapse, the space-time permanence, the practice of talking to your younger self? I read every comment, and honestly, knowing how this connects with people helps me understand what matters most. If you want more of this, physics and philosophy and the messy, beautiful reality of being human all tangled together, hit subscribe. I'm here exploring the intersection of science and lived experience, trying to figure out how the math of the universe relates to the ache in your chest. And if you know someone who's stuck, someone beating themselves up for what they can't change, someone exhausting themselves trying to escape their past, send this to them. Sometimes we need permission to stop fighting. Sometimes we need to hear that the past is permanent. And that's not a curse. It's just how reality works, and we can finally stop pretending otherwise. Thanks for being here. Thanks for letting me share this with you. Thanks for being willing to think about time and memory and healing in a different way. Your past self is proud of you. Your future self is rooting for you. And your present self? You deserve kindness. Right here, right now, in this moment that's about to become part of the permanent record. You're doing better than you think, I promise.